Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of October 6th, 2024. I am happy to be home from my 3-week retreat in Mexico. I had some much needed downtime, but happy to be back and able to talk about some of the astrology in action. So we're going to go back to the lunar eclipse that was in the sign of Pisces on September 17th. An eclipse season works together. And in this case, the full moon preceded the new moon. So something comes to your attention at the full moon. Wow, that you make a decision and set intentions or take actions related to the full moon, but there will be of the nature of the new moon, the solar eclipse in Libra. And this eclipse gave us a preview of what is coming in 2025 and 2026. At the lunar eclipse in Pisces, the moon was conjunct Neptune. Neptune rules drugs, the ocean, deception, confusion are some of the topics that we can think about. The moon rules the people and the people in a Neptunian situation. So this brings the imagery of masses of water. Also at this eclipse, Mercury in Virgo. Mercury communicates. It has to do with electronics, plans in Virgo and Earth sign. That has to do with like the people who do the work. When we think about Capricorn, we can think about the bosses. When we think about Virgo, we think about the workers. And it was opposite Saturn and Pisces. Saturn ends things. Saturn restricts, Saturn delays. So think about these themes as I talk about the stories. On the day of the lunar eclipse, Sean Puffy Combs was arrested for drug trafficking and racketeering. His problem started at the solar eclipse last year when a former girlfriend, Cassie, threatened to talk and he paid her off, but then later came out him attacking her in a hotel, and then his properties were raided, and now he's been arrested. He is in jail without any bail. Pisces also rules music, and you can think about Pisces as this mutable water sign that just kind of spreads and expands everywhere. You can think about river imagery with Pisces. I like to think of the deep ocean with Scorpio and a placid lake with Cancer. These are the water signs. Water signs are also, you can think about how water signs are mute and they're yin energy. And if you are not familiar with Sean Combs, he is a rapper who is also a mogul. And he was famous, especially in the 90s, for these white parties where everyone would go. I think they were in the Hamptons and wear white. And it was like the hottest ticket in town for some people. It was always, you would see pictures of the celebrities there in People magazine or what have you. And so he has a lot of connections with very famous people. He was very popular. He has a Venus in Libra at home, suggesting one-on-one relationships, ease with, connecting with people and being popular. Conjunct Jupiter in Libra, expanding that. So there are a lot of friends and associates that could be caught in the net of his problems, because at these parties there were a lot of recordings that are being shopped around now behind the scenes of well-known people at these parties that were called freak-offs, that people were doing all kinds of things. I'm sure there's people doing drugs as well as sexual stuff that they would rather not come into the collective. So there's a lot of catch and kill going on behind the scenes, a lot of negotiations. Mercury negotiates to stop Saturn, to block these videotapes. Pisces also rules images and videos and movies. Since I started recording this, there was a news conference where there are 100 plus additional victims against Sean Combs about him sexually abusing them, as well as 25 children. And the prosecutor who was talking said that there will be some high-profile people who will be named. One possibility is Jupiter in Gemini stationing retrograde on October 9th. I'll talk about that more about this week's astrology. On November 3rd, Mars, which rules sex, will enter the sign of Leo, which rules the performer and celebrities on November 3rd. So mark your calendar for that. We may see someone, we may all be talking about someone in the entertainment industry and what they've done. And then on December 6th, Mars will station at 6 degrees of Leo and go back to 17 degrees of Cancer. And so a retrograde, what it will do is it will peel the tape back on a lot of these celebrities, especially ones with planets between 0 and 6 degrees of Leo, also 17 and 29 degrees of Cancer. The next story that made news on the day of the eclipse was that Israel launched a coordinated attack on Hezbollah, the terror group that is located in Lebanon. And I had a prediction that there would be a new warfare tactic this year. And the thing that just really caught my eye was that in February, when what happened was, first Mercury met Pluto for the first time in 248 years approximately, and then Mars met Pluto, and then Venus met Pluto, all in the sign of Aquarius. And so when planets meet, there's something about merging the energy. And Mercury rules communication devices, Mars warfare, Venus has to do with resources. And then on July 15th, Mars met Uranus at 26 degrees of Taurus on Algol, the beheading star. So that, and Uranus, Mars rules war, Uranus innovation, and Algol is the beheading star. And that to me really jumped out as well. So on the day of the lunar eclipse, a coordinated attack with exploding pagers all across Lebanon started going off. And then the next day, walkie-talkies started going off. So it caused absolute chaos. So you can think about Mercury in Virgo, pagers, walkie-talkies, these communication devices that, are just common everyday items. And then opposite, Saturn and Pisces. They're Saturnian deadly thing in Pisces disguise. And Trojan horses was one of the themes I said when I did the Aries ingress video for Kepler College. And I'll put this in the show notes because you may want to go back and watch it if you're so interested and see how I dialogued what I expected could be coming up. Something you think is a gift is a weapon. And so it chilled me to the bone when I saw this happen, because now we're in new territory where, okay, so now just everyday items can be a bomb. It just psychologically, and at the time Mars was in Cancer, so it's like psychological. Cancer has to do with psychology. It's a water sign, and Mars war, and emotions. And with Mars and Cancer, there's these thoughts of emotional volatility. And you can think about emotional warfare. And with the lunar eclipse in Pisces, people being very nervous about touching anything electronic. And thousands of civilians were impacted by this attack as well. And hospitals, a Pisces topic in Lebanon, across the country, were overwhelmed because this happened all over the place. And then attacks have been going on since then. And 1 million civilians in Lebanon are now displaced. So Pisces rules homelessness, the people facing hardship, or people facing homelessness, hardship, refugees, things like that. So you're seeing that in this story, this increase in people who have been displaced. Eclipses are times when there are regime changes and leaders are taken out. And the leader of Hezbollah was killed during one of the strikes on Lebanon, as well as a lot of their senior leadership, including someone who had orchestrated an attack against the United States many years ago. I'm recording this on the day of October 1st, the day before the solar eclipse. And Iran has tried again and has launched a bunch of missiles at Israel. I don't know if any of them have landed at this time, but the solar eclipse tomorrow is conjunct Israel's Neptune at 10 degrees of Libra. Neptune suggests loss, and opposite Iran's sun, which is at 10 degrees of Aries. Eclipses opposite your sun can knock you down a bit. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this eclipse has to do with the nature of it from the Saros series. It's 8S, and it was delineated by Bernadette Brady. It's about physical injury and separation and loss. So physical injury, all these people who had the pagers and walkie-talkies exploding, I mean, several people died, but a lot of people had damage to their heads, Uranus on Algol, their hands, their upper torso, and people standing near them were injured as well. You'll see people who have visible damage to them. So that brings in the theme of physical injury as well as separation and loss. You can think about separation and loss from homes for the people who were displaced. The next story I want to make you aware of is that Hurricane Helene has devastated parts of the United States, the southeast part of the United States. It's absolute devastation across 6 states. There is something called the Metonic cycle, where there's an eclipse at the same degree over every 19 years, over 75 to 96 years. So you can experience these in a lifetime where your chart, when it's impacted, has an eclipse at the same degree every 19 years. And so there may be a story that rhymes in your life. So 19 years ago I think it was October 3rd when the actual day of the eclipse was in 2005. So you can think about what was going on in your life about around that time. That was the year of Hurricane Katrina. And now we have Hurricane Helene. And for the United States, 10 Libra is very close to our 14-degree Saturn in Libra in our 10th house. The 10th house is very public, and it rules the executive branch. Saturn rules hardship, burdens, structures, and chronic ongoing problems. And Libra rules diplomacy. Back in 2005, it was the second intifada. The end of it was about the end of the year when the Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, forced Jewish settlers to leave the Gaza Strip. And it caused a lot of upheaval for him in his government. And so we're seeing a repetition of stories. We're seeing another big hurricane, but in a different place in the United States. And we're seeing a lot of upheaval in Israel. On October 2nd, there was an eclipse to Israel's Neptune. I taped this early. I already said it's October 1st. So I do not know exactly what happened on October 2nd or in the following days, but we know Iran launched a bunch of missiles at Israel, and they were all knocked down as of now when I'm recording. And one Palestinian was killed in the West Bank, and there was just some damage in Israel. Iran says they're complete. Israel says they're retaliating. So this endless cycle of conflict and violence will be continuing for at least for a while. It's just a horror show. But on both cases, there were big stories in the news about storms in the U.S. and about conflict going on in Israel. Over 100 people have died as of now with this storm. Millions of people have lost power at some times. And North Carolina was one of the hardest hit states. And Sibelco is a company, it's a Belgian company that mines high-quality quartz from a one-of-a-kind mill in Spruce Pines, North Carolina, one of the towns that was very hard hit. There's some towns in North Carolina, they've got no access to food, power. They're shut off because of all the flooding, and some towns are completely encircled, and there's a lot of difficulty getting to them. Now, this plant is shut down, and they, at this time, don't know when they're going to get it up and running again due to damage from the storm. This could be devastating to the economy, not just of the U.S., but it could have worldwide impact if it takes a long time to get this plant back up and running, because they are it's a one-of-a-kind mine that supplies this quartz that are used in semiconductors that are used to make phones and other electronic devices. They also are important around AI technology. I'm not worried about AI so much, but these semiconductors could have a devastating impact on supply chains. So if you need a new phone or computer, I would advise you to go out and get it now, especially before Mercury, which rules electronic equipment, enters the sign of its detriment, Sagittarius, on November 2nd, and it's going to go retrograde from November 25th through December 16th. So you definitely don't want to be buying anything then. But if you were planning to buy a new phone for Christmas or something like that, you might want to get it now so that you don't risk it not being able to get one when you are ready to move forward. Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Herlick, creates this calendar every year, and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2024, or ABC 2025, depending on the year. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar. The theme of this week is League of Justice, and there are three big things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance, will go retrograde at 21 Gemini on October 9th, back to 11 Gemini on February 4th, when it will go direct. As a reminder, retrogrades are optical illusions where it appears that a planet stops in the sky on a degree and goes back through the zodiac, and then stops again and goes forward. What it means is that there could be a three-part story for you, especially if you have planets or points between 11 and 21 Gemini, or any of the mutable signs, which are Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Virgo. So look at your chart and see, especially if you have anything at 21 or 11, because when the planet slows down, and so Jupiter has been like on this 21 degrees for a while. So it's almost like a branding iron in your chart that is kind of, really putting the energy in. Now, Jupiter is a benefic. So it depends on your chart. If you have some nice aspects, you could have some lucky breaks, unexpected benefactors really helping you, or other positive things happening with this. But Jupiter is also an amplifier, so it can just make everything bigger. And Gemini can be, it's an air sign, and air scatters. And if you've been anxious or anything lately and you have something around there, it could just make that anxiety bigger. So you can think about Gemini rules the lungs and is associated with the breath. How can you use your breath to aid your calming down? So really start taking extra time to make sure you stay grounded and use all your tools if you find yourself getting extra agitated, especially 5 days before and after these retrograde stations. The energy is the most intense. Jupiterian people are judges, celebrities, doctors, the wealthy, professors. Jupiter educates, invests in, and expands, and it has associations with big wealth. People who are Jupiterian either aid to life or are thought to have lives of ease. Jupiter rules law, morality, ethics, philosophy, big ideas, systems of belief. So notice what we see coming to light, because what will happen when Jupiter goes retrograde, there will be stories in the news of this nature where the tape is peeled back so we can see things underneath. It also rules higher education. I think there is going to be stories at college campuses. I talked about, last week, warning your kids about staying away from these punch bowls or being really mindful about intoxicants with this grand trine and a turbulent water that we're having right now. This could be bad in terms of storms. Retrogrades bring delays. So Jupiter rules long distance travel. Gemini rules transportation. So there could be something that causes, flights to be grounded or something like that. We also know that the dock workers across the eastern U.S. are on strike. This could have a huge impact on supply chains if there is an extended strike. So that's another reason for you to be stocking up on non-perishables so that you can have enough to last you if there is a bit of an ongoing strike with the dock workers. They are wanting higher pay and protection against automation. Jupiter also rules the liver, the hips, and the thighs. So notice if you feel anything around these things, a great time to do extra stretching and taking care of these parts of your body. Yeah, if you have substance abuse issues, be tremendously careful, because when Jupiter stationing to go retrograde, people can just really overdo it. You may find yourself feeling a lack of motivation, like Jupiter is like just wanting things to go well without putting any effort, or just feeling a little extra lazy. And just be mindful, it's just a transit that will go away eventually. For the USA, there is going to be a story. Jupiter is going to be conjunct the Mars in Gemini of our chart. As I said earlier, maybe it's famous celebrities being named in association with Sean Combs. Maybe there'll be news about the political parties, because Mars and Gemini, fighting siblings. You can think about, the Republicans and the Democrats. News about their peeling back the layer on some of their ads or their techniques or strategies that they're employing, because Jupiter is going to station on the U.S. Mars. Remember, Mars attacks, strives, achieves, squaring Neptune in the 9th house of higher education, legal affairs, belief systems, long distance travel, all these things. So these are some of the topics to be aware of. We're going to be seeing stories about, but I wrote down college campuses, travel delays, conflicts, disagreements. You may notice, like, if you are on Instagram, there'll be courts, increase of videos, the little reels with people in court and what the judge is saying to people. I wrote down overseas chaos. We already know this war is escalating in the Middle East. The United States postal system could also be in focus, which is very important during the election season, as Gemini rules the mail. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that we have a first quarter moon at 17 Capricorn on Thursday, where the sun will be in Libra and the moon in Capricorn. Libra rules relationships of all kinds. It rules justice and diplomacy. Capricorn rules the elderly, governments, and big business. You can think about how you may be talking with your partner or taking action about one of your parental units with this. Or there could be a discussion between two people or couples about how work interferes with their relationship. Or you may be at work and working together on a one-on-one project with someone. These are some things of how it can show up. You may be thinking about how you can have more balance, Libra, in your own life around the work you do. This is a great time to be thinking about things like this, because on January 11th, the South Node will go into the sign of Virgo. So this to me is like, limiting, draining of the South Node drains, overworking. So the more you can think about, and this is something I'm really working on, how I can have more balance, because I just have to have more balance in my work and life, because some things came to my attention that it's not sustainable how much I am working. And the first quarter moon is a time of action. I would just caution you not to take actions that you haven't thought about for a while if they are significant, because in eclipse season, we had a solar eclipse in Libra last week. Eclipses are intense energy. And so it's better, and they're thought to be fated. So it's better to, see what's coming to light rather than rushing forward and taking action. Regarding the lunar phase family of this cycle, which are these 27-month cycles where there will be a story every 9 months where the moon is activating your chart at the same place. So On January 11th of this year, the sun and the moon were at 20 degrees of Capricorn at the new moon phase. So something was seeded then. 9 months later is here we are at the first quarter moon on October 10th. Sun in Libra, moon in Capricorn, both at 17 degrees. The full moon of this cycle, the sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn, both at 18 degrees. July 10th of 2025. This can be a time of big illumination for a story that started in January 2024. And the last quarter moon, the sun will be in Aries and the moon in Capricorn, April 9th, 2026, also at 20 degrees. So keep these dates in mind, especially if they impact your chart within a degree or two. So the sun at 17 Libra, the tarot card again is the Three of Swords, which is the heartbreak card. It's about grief and emotional. Swords are mental and emotional disappointment. The Sabian symbol is two men placed under arrest give an accounting of their actions before the tribunal of society. Again, we come in with the imagery of League of Justice, as well as Libra season has to do with justice and Jupiter has to do with law and ethics. So really pay attention to what stories you see regarding the nature of this topic. And yeah, people accounting for their actions. I wonder if, what the UN or other organizations, the International Criminal Court, are going to be saying about this escalating war, or, what the Biden administration, is there going to be some kind of statement or action? I'm really concerned about the next thing, the moon at 17 Capricorn, Three of Pentacles tarot card, which the Three of Pentacles is about collaboration between multiple people. And the Sabian symbol is the Union Jack flies from a new British warship. Really concerning. One of the things I wrote down when I first started preparing for 2024 was "You sunk my battleship." And I'm really concerned that something will happen, even possibly by action, that draws more countries into this conflict in the Middle East. It also could just be about displays of power. The United States have already sent ships and what have you over to the Middle East, trying to show some strength, trying to keep calm. It's not working. It's very concerning that we are on the path to more escalations. But let's hope that calmer voices will help to tamp things down before they get out of control completely. But what I wrote down is there are no winners with war. I mean, this war, I think, is just not going to, it's just so many people are suffering so much hardship, stress. It's just awful. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that Pluto will go direct at 29 Capricorn, the last degree of the sign of governments and big business and the elderly and structures. Capricorn is an earth sign. You can think about it like mountains. This is a time where there's this intensity. So if you have anything around 29 degrees of Capricorn, or any of the cardinal signs, which include Cancer, Libra, and Aries, there may be a story in your life. Pluto's job is to unearth the rot beneath the surface that we maybe would rather not have revealed. But you think about it, also diamonds come up from underneath the earth. And it takes grit to make a pearl, comes to my mind. So sometimes plunging in these difficult depths of the underworld can be for our higher good on a personal level. So some people may be experiencing some internal upheaval. Capricorn, you can think about it's about achievement and legacy and the strategies and tactics that you're doing to get where you want to go. You may be reconsidering, are these in my best interest? Am I doing what I'm doing because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses? Do I really need the status symbol of this Mercedes Benz or whatever in order to be flashy or what have you? Now, Pluto entered Capricorn in the year of 2008, and what was burned down to the studs in order to be revealed, the rot underneath was about too big to fail, and how, we had the big financial problems back then as Pluto entered the sign. And now Pluto is wrapping up its work in the sign of Capricorn. We are experiencing intense power struggles between the countries of Iran and Israel, and other countries in the world will now maybe be getting involved more deeply. And this is very concerning. Like Pluto energy can be just absolutely catastrophic. It has a mass influence. It moves at the speed of a glacier, but has the impact of a tsunami. Since last December, there's been a lot of volcanoes erupting in Iceland. There may be a story about that, or we may see Pluto energy is volcanic. It's very intense. It rules things like volcanoes and like catastrophes. We're seeing all these storms where infrastructure, a Capricorn topic, has been destroyed. The longshoremen are on strike. That's going to have a big impact on businesses. Now, Pluto will leave Capricorn on November 19th for 248 years approximately. And then we really get back down to business, remodeling. Pluto remodels Aquarian topics, which is the collective, which is groups and organizations. So we are incarnated at this time for a reason. This is going to be a couple of difficult weeks. It's important to keep yourself grounded, understand what you can change and what you can't change, and know the difference, and try not to let your fears get too much out of hand with what you can't control, is my recommendation. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching, where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is lifeboat. We start the day with a Scorpio moon. The moon is in fall in the sign of Scorpio. It doesn't really like to be here. Scorpio is a fixed energy where we can just really hold on to our emotional responses and have trouble letting them go. Now, it's also a very sexy sign. And so then maybe you're feeling very passionate about your love affair with someone new or with your partner. We're in Libra season. Libra rules relationships. So this can give you you could leave your hat on kind of energy. Maybe do something surprising for someone you're dating or in a relationship with. at 2:50 p.m., we are going to have a waxing crescent moon at 29 Scorpio. That's the last degree of the sign, and 29 is a degree of crisis and decay. And I'm seeing like crisis around water. Now, this could be around storms, but I also wrote down battleship or submarines. There could be some story about that because the moon, which rules people in the sign of Scorpio, which has to do with life or death, is sextile Pluto in Capricorn and trine Neptune in Pisces. So there's a lot of oceanic and water energy. This could be something about on a cruise ship. Hopefully there's nothing about, norovirus or something like that. But notice if you see rescues on boats or something like that, because we have Venus in Scorpio is trine Mars in Cancer. There can be plumbing problems, stories about underground troubles. I'd look to the Middle East for what's going on with this. The Libra sun will be quincunx Saturn and Pisces, both at 13 degrees of the respective sides. Quincunxes move us into new situations where we have to release and let go of things. Saturn is like a buzzkill. It's a hardship. It delays. The sun spotlights. So there's maybe a spotlight on diplomatic limitations with this due to something on the Pisces, some kind of water thing. Then the moon will move into the sign of Sagittarius at 4:34 p.m. Pacific time. So if you were in a bad mood, notice if you start to let it go. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. This is optimistic energy. It's expansive energy. Maybe you start thinking about travel or going on a trip or some higher philosophy. Maybe you were like in your feelings, and then you see the bigger picture with Sagittarius and lighten up. Maybe decide to go for a walk or do some exercise, and getting your chi moving makes you feel better. So you dust yourself off and try again if maybe something didn't work. On Monday, the word of the day is dutiful. The moon is square Saturn. Moon in Sagittarius square Saturn and Pisces, and then it sextiles the sun. So think about, it's Libra season. Can you do something to ease the burden of someone you partner with that, feels good? Like you do something for someone you work with. Hey, let me handle that. I see you have a lot on your plate. Why don't I take care of that for you? That would be a wonderful thing to do for someone else. So Saturn rules burden. So take on someone else's burden to brighten their day. The sun brightens things. On Tuesday, the word of the day is conspiracy. Venus in Scorpio is trine Mars in Cancer. They're both at 18 degrees. Now, this could be really just passionate energy between, you may look up if you're at work and see Sally from accounting giving Bob from manufacturing a sexy look. And you're like, hey now, ho now. We didn't know that was going on, but that's their business. But the word of the day is conspiracy, because Venus can be like a party or people partnering in Scorpio to do something where they're conspiring in order to like do a bank heist or something like that, or they can be up to no good. Now, Mars taking action and conflict in Cancer. Cancer rules like our homeland. So I wrote down people up to no good in the U.S. about something around the election, and maybe they get caught when we see this aspect, or maybe something happens, or maybe it's just on TV talking about it. But Mercury will be in Libra. Mercury communicates trine Jupiter in Gemini. They're both at 21 degrees, and Jupiter is barely moving. Now, positively, Mercury trine Jupiter can be your plan. Mercury is a success, Jupiter. And Jupiter's on the Mars of the United States. So let's hope there's nothing. We'll see what happens. Mercury is also opposite Chiron in Aries. So watch your head. This can be about like somebody may be like, notice if someone says, oh my goodness, I have a headache, especially if it's your partner. Mercury communicates, Libra rules partners, Chiron wounds, Aries the head. That could be how this shows up. But there's going to be something in the news that's being talked about. And notice what you see in your own life. You could say to your partner, oh my God, I have a headache. And Jupiter aids, jump up and go get you an aspirin. Or Jupiter rules doctors, call the doctor for you. And yeah, Venus and Scorpio, your partner's not feeling good and you take action to help heal them. That could be something that comes up in your own life, or you see that happen with someone else, or you're watching a show and you're like, oh my God, this is the aspects that are of the day. On Wednesday, the word is look back. This is the day Jupiter stations retrograde at 21 Gemini. Now it's on the USA Mars, so really pay attention to topics we hear about Mars topics. Mars rules the IC of the US, which is the land, and also the opposing party. So there may be news related to, I mean, of course, there's going to be news related to the election, but some truths may be revealed, legal things there could be news about. Hopefully, this could also, Jupiter and Gemini, intense winds could be a problem on this day. And there's just this week in general, because Gemini is an air sign. And Mercury trine Jupiter could be like a really windy days of this week, especially because Jupiter is stationing. The moon enters Capricorn at 2:38 p.m. Pacific time. The moon is in detriment in Capricorn. It doesn't like to be here. But it's a great time to get down to work. I want you to be prepared for delays, especially if you're traveling. And I wrote down, look behind you. So somebody's listening to this that is really important, and that you remember, if your spidey senses tingle, just look behind you. You could see something, if it's a windy day, something coming towards you that you can avoid. On Thursday, the word of the day is defamation. Venus in Scorpio will be at 21 degrees at the tip of a yod. And a yod is a chart pattern that looks like an isosceles triangle, and it's like you have been pointed at. So if you have any one thing at 21 Scorpio, pay attention to the nature. What is the planet? What house is it in? What does it symbolize to you? Pay attention. See, what do you think this story could be? Venus is a benefic, so maybe it's something nice coming. Venus is king-conjunct Jupiter in Gemini and Chiron in Aries. And Jupiter and Chiron are sextile. So just be mindful that running your mouth could cause yourself your own problems, but also there could be a sense of getting lucky. Or if you overindulge, you could have a headache. Jupiter and Venus can overindulge, and then Chiron and Aries, you have a headache. The first quarter moon is at 17 degrees in Capricorn at 11:54 a.m. Pacific time. First quarter moons are times to take action. Now, the moon will be opposite Mars, so that can be someone feeling at 19 degrees. The moon in Capricorn at 19 degrees and opposite Mars in Cancer at 19 degrees. That's a couple hours later. Just be mindful if you get your boss dumps something on your plate and you could get really annoyed. So just moderate yourself, do your breath work. Don't shoot yourself in the foot by shooting off your mouth and getting fired. On Friday, the word of the day is exposure. I wrote down Congress. The moon enters Aquarius at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. This could be Congress, Parliament, or whatever for people who are international. We may be hearing stories about groups, the UN, the ICC, as the moon moves into Aquarius, which is a fixed air sign. It's a great time to take a step back with a higher view about anything going on in your life. Be a little detached. Think about the future. Mercury in Libra as quincunx. Uranus at 26 Taurus on Algol, and Uranus is retrograde. Algol, the beheading star that is about, has to do with childless cat ladies, the Medusa mythology, Lilith, women who will not be subservient or are punished for being attacked or not conforming to conservative viewpoints. I think we're going to hear recordings revealed about people planning to spread misinformation. Notice what you hear about misinformation. Pluto is direct at 29 Capricorn. So yeah, we're going to be, revelations is going to be exposure of dirty dealings. There could be an October surprise on this day. I wrote down people who thought they were real clever get exposed. Clown car comes to me. On Saturday, the word of the day is swamp. Jupiter in Gemini is sextile Chiron in Aries. Sextiles are opportunities. You have your opportunity to get your mouth running. Jupiter expands things. Gemini communicates. Chiron wounds or heals. So you could wound or heal or both in Aries about the self. So I hope you're talking nicely to yourself. With Pluto going direct, and the swamp could be about government corruption, stories revealed. Mercury in Libra will be quincunx Neptune and Pisces, both at 27 degrees of their related signs. So that could be about deception revealed. Yeah, we'll see what happens with this, because Jupiter in Gemini is in our 7th house on Mars, sextile Chiron in Aries in our 4th house of land and the opposition party. So yeah, we'll see if there's something revealed about communications or what have you. I'll talk about it next week. It's really going to be interesting because Sunday, Mercury will square Pluto. Sun and Mercury square Pluto. So there's going to be more revealed, or maybe it's already being revealed, about government things being unearthed for our awareness and our decision making as for the U.S. moves into election season. But you're going to be seeing things about government corruption and unearthing and power struggles all over the world. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.